Well, good afternoon, evening, morning, night, whichever order you would like to do that in, to everyone, wherever you may be, somewhere in our lovely world. Thanks for joining us live here today on the one and only Serverless Office Hours, streaming on the AWS Twitch channel, also YouTube Serverless Land, and also via LinkedIn Live. I'm Julian Wood. I'm a developer advocate here for Serverless at AWS, and I'm joined by the one and only Dave Boyne, who's been a previous host of Serverless Office Hours, has been a guest multiple times of Serverless Office Hours, ex-colleague, spreading his wings and doing some cool things. Dave, how are you?
Wow, what an intro. Yeah, very good, Julian. I've missed that intro. Good morning.
You've done it yourself.
Good afternoon. Oh, yes. I've missed
cool.
that.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you. Yeah, great to be back. Thanks for inviting me, actually.
Absolutely. So you were on our team at AWS and you've sort of headed off to do two different things. One is your own open source project, EventCatalog, which we're talking today, and also a sort of advocacy role for Winglang. So yeah, is that the summary? What else have we got to tell us about the new Dave?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Put on a bit of weight.
That's just summer, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, I left AWS. Used to, as people know or people don't know, used to work on the developer advocacy team there, and then left to do more open source work. So 2 jobs. I have 2 jobs at the moment. One is EventCatalog, where I get to kind of explore open source about EDA and documentation and discoverability and all sorts of wonderful stuff, which I'll go through today. And then equally on the other side too, I work for Wing. So it's like a programming language for the cloud, a new programming language, right? And it's interesting. Work with very, very smart people, building programming language from the ground, and building like cloud primitives, all sorts of things, and new ways to build into the cloud. So yeah, it's interesting what you can do when you're building, what's possible when you're building a language itself, right? So I'd have to come on it again in the
future. Yeah, well, we've had Elad on before talking about Winglang. So I'm sure we'll have a future opportunity to talk about what's new. So just looking, before we talk about what's new with EventCatalog, the last sort of week in the world of AWS and the serverless ecosystem. Last week we had community builder Vadim Kazulkin, who's literally the guru, one of the gurus on serverless, and probably the top 5 gurus on all Java and serverless. And he was actually talking about the Aurora serverless data API. So connecting Lambda functions to Aurora serverless using the data API as a proxy. And he had loads of tips and tricks and everything. So that's on our youtube.com/serverlessland channel, along with all the other episodes of Serverless Office Hours. That was close. I leant over and nearly closed my laptop, which would have been, don't know what would have done. Would have everything gone to sleep? Who knows?
Left me here.
Yeah. Oh, Dave's going. What's going? Dave, you're the expert. Dave, you're the host. Keep going. Then what's new in the world of serverless? Amplify starts to expand what they're doing. So this is cool that you've got some new function capabilities, so the Amplify functions, and you can do some schedule con jobs and also streaming some logs out of your functions, which could be helpful. And then, step functions. Step functions is all about orchestration and everything. Step functions, you can build these small or big state machines, and something you want to do in part of your testing is validate that things work. And so there's actually a validation API that you can use for step functions. Run it via the command line or through your CI/CD pipeline or anything, and that can just check that your step function state machine, you're not missing that that $dot sign somewhere. It just makes it a little bit easier to do that as well. Which should all be good. In terms of blog posts, Anton Alexandrov, also a person who's been on Office Hours numerous times, got a really good blog post about processing batch data using parallelization in Lambda. So obviously, Lambda function has got one event that comes in, but if you're using a batch, that's got a whole bunch of different items in the batch, and he's got some cool tips and tricks that you can parallel process that data, using various things in programming languages. So super useful, save your costs, get more throughput, which would be really good. And then Dheeraj has written a blog post as well about step functions using KMS keys. So that's provide some more of your own sort of personal security, I like to call it, for your step functions using your own customer managed keys. It is AWS Summit season still. Jakarta's coming up in 2 days' time. So if you're around Indonesia, that'll be super great. Free technical events, lots of really a lot of effort put into the summits. So super good to be able to talk that. In fact, Zurich is on today, actually. I think I've got my Zurich is on today. I've got my dates a bit wonky in the wrong way around. So hello to people in Zurich. Go to EDA Day in Warsaw on the 19th of September. Dave is going to be there. I'm going to be there. So really focused on event-driven architectures, what we're going to be talking about today, and a focus day. Also is a great city. So yeah, I really suggest you you attend. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a beginner, for everybody. And event-driven architectures is such a fundamental building block in the cloud these days. And it's so nice to have a sort of curated event to go into all sort of parts of that. Dave, what are you doing at EDA Day?
Yeah, great question. I'm doing a talk. So talk on complexity of EDA, actually, which actually cool. I'm going to be showing a bit of that today.
Cool.
But yeah, talking about
Excellent. We'll sign up just to see Dave. That sounds like good. And obviously, the big event at the end of the year is reInvent. So, literally, there must be thousands of people at AWS at the moment cranking those wheels and looking at all product features that can come out for reInvent. Lots of talks, lots of technical content. I'll be there. A whole bunch of people will be there. I've got 3 talks that I'm working on at the moment. So it's going to be super exciting. Love going to reInvent and connecting with everybody. So yeah, it'd be great to see you there.
That's the new reInvent theme too.
You see, Dave's starting to. Dave knows how it works. He can spot the different color theme from year to year. You can actually see the background of the stream is last year's one. So maybe next year we'll change office hours to this one. I've been rabbiting on for a while. We're going to be talking to Dave, but just remember we are live here at Office Hours. Love to hear where you're from. Love to hear where our global AWS community is connecting from. So yeah, one of the benefits of being live is you can say hi and of course send us your questions and comments. So, Dave, today we're talking about documenting events with EventCatalog. We've got over here people as well. Nick Smith, who is, the guru product manager for EventBridge, and yeah, happy to see us streaming together again. Awesome. And he's from Los Angeles. There we go. People all over the world. So, Dave, obviously, there are 2 things in this, just even in the title. It's all about documenting events, and then the open source tool that you have created to do that. So, yeah, so tee us up. What is EventCatalog? Why do you need to document your events? Isn't it just all YOLO? What's the problem?
Good question. EventCatalog, in summary, discoverability tool for event-driven architectures. It renders static documentation for your events, your commands, your queries, your channels, your servers, visualizations, all sorts of things, ownership. Why? That's a good question. Why have I left my job to kind of pursue that too? But to explain that, I have a couple of slides to give you a kind of background of the problem space, and then I can show some demos and all sorts of stuff.
Cool. Always love the demos, yeah.
So let's see if this works. I have to use Google PowerPoint now. Cool. So this is just a few slides. Won't bore you too much, but this is me. You can find me down there, Boyne123. Developer advocate at Wing, and also do EventCatalog. So the complexity is the gotcha of event-driven architecture. This is a talk I gave this year, keynote at EDA Day, but I just stripped a couple of slides to actually highlight the problem that I see and what I'm finding many other people are seeing, right? And this is why EventCatalog exists, is that when we build event-driven architectures, we have this kind of potential of EDA. We know this potential, the potential of like loosely coupled systems, potentials of scalability, resilience, and all this fantastic goodness you have out there. All you got to do is Google search, benefits of event-driven architectures or trade-offs or whatever, and you get a bunch of them. So you think, oh, fine, great, thank you very much. But what you realize underneath the hood there really is just like this sea of complexity, right, with event-driven architectures give you. And it's that sea of complexity that kind of masks the potential, right? So many people are building EDA solutions, but without managing complexity, the value you can get from EDA kind of disappears, I guess. The maximum value you can get, I guess. And the question is, when you take away that complexity, manage complexity, and this is what this all really is about. EventCatalog is designed to help you with a complexity, is then you can kind of start seeing some of that potential of EDA coming back through, which is the whole point. And this is something I kind of said this year, but I still believe this is true. If we don't manage complexity, you will never unlock its potential. And complexity, there's types of complexity, there's all sorts, but one you'll see often come up is like accidental complexity, especially with like your domains, your services, your boundaries, all sorts of things, weird and wonderful things. So the question is, where does it start? It starts like this. It starts very simple. We have boxes and lines and connections and channels and services. Fantastic. We go on whiteboards and everything looks gravy, and we start to implement this thing. Next day or in the same session, we start doing more boxes, more services, more events, more commands and channels and queries and all sorts of things. And this thing, fair enough, if we can start to manage this. In fact, we have more things listening to more consumers and producers and channels. And this thing gets to a point where it's like, okay, this thing's becoming interesting, but look at the boxes, they're very pretty. And then all we have done, in fact, really is just move that complexity. We've spread it out into microservices, into channels, into events, and you end up in some weird and wonderful big ball of mud, right? And as systems grow, complexity grows. I kind of like this visualization, but this is like different nodes, channels or events or whatever, things talking to each other. So on the left, things start very simple. We have 3 people, 3 channels, but in the middle, we have more channels of possible communication. And then down here, we just have this complexity stuff that happens. I've got 2 dogs, by the way. Let me just...
Well, someone was talking about the complexity, so I think the dogs agree with you, Dave. So is this as the systems grow, the complexity grows? Is this part of the reason that some people are, trying microservices and doing kind of things, and stuff just gets too crazy, too hairy, and so there seems to be at the moment a bit of the repopularization of the monolith, because even though people think event-driven architectures, async, all these kind of things sounds good. Do it gets crazy, let's just shove it all in a monolith because that's actually going to be easy to reason about. Is that sort of part of the sort of swing back that people are maybe doing?
I think so, yeah. It's a tricky one. It's a whole talk in itself. I think many people have been burnt from the let's split everything into components, let's microservice everything,
okay.
And too granular, right? And where are the boundaries there, and what do we do? And then how do you test this stuff? How do you run this stuff? Sorry, the dog. I got dog issues for about...
Dog is agreeing. That's quite all right.
5 more minutes. But yeah, people are moving back to monoliths. People are still doing microservices, and there is a whole shebang around all of that. The whole idea really is, I don't know, does it come back to complexity? Probably in ways, yes. If I have 100,000 or whatever it is, or 600 services, could you simplify that, moving them closer together? And that distance is all about the distance between the components and the services too.
And trade-offs, yeah.
And all the trade-offs. But as I said, there is loads to go in there. But the things around complexity, even like this, we have A and B and we have a channel. Like, how complex can this even be? But there are things hidden in here, right? We have unclear domains. We have schema definitions, like what is the schema? What is the event? How do we change the schema, version the schema, and have for this coupling? Even coupling through consumption on the right here is how we consume events using anti-corruption layers or different kind of messaging consumption patterns here. So, and equally the language that we use between the two. So the general gist here really is, I believe we have to control it through different guardrails. Complexity controls through different guardrails, one of them being behavior first thinking, which I believe like event storming, event modeling, domain-driven design can really help you here map out your domain, understand your business logic. Define an event strategy, is that's all about versioning of events, which we won't go into today, but how do you evolve your events over time? And then a coupling strategy, thinking about anti-corruption layers and thinking about how you consume events, even couple you to that contract. There is loads of complexity with this that you have to think about. But the one I think that gets all of it, that no matter who I'm talking to anyway, especially, oh, you fade every time. Okay, I'll stay close. Sorry. The biggest gotcha of them all really is that going to that big ball of mud is that complexity here. And the real problem that I see when I'm speaking to a lot of people is that producers don't know about consumers, and we take this too literally. The technical term, and we end up in a weird big ball of mess. Sorry, the dog will go in about 5 minutes when my wife is home. She's not home yet from taking the kids swimming, so.
It is what it is. You can tell me live. That's why it's all good.
Yeah, we're live. We've got a dog. So We've got common questions over time that start happening. It's really hard to do a talk too when a dog's barking. The common questions are like, okay, what events do we have? What schemas do we have? What domains do we have? What services do we have? How can we change the schema? How can I find the schema? Who's consuming this schema? And especially in enterprises, as we grow this event-driven architecture, this solution, this decoupled architecture, it just becomes this big ball of mud and this big mess, right? So what solutions do we have in this space? And there are open source solutions that have emerged and are emerging and are growing. So we have the cloud event specification, being able to actually define your event, define standards of messages between brokers, between services, between domains, between companies, right? There is some great value to be had there. Equally down here is async API, a specification to be able to document your services, your components, your messages, your channels, your producers and your consumers, right? And so the big question there I always have was like, how do you, and that's an example of an async API document, which I'll show you in a minute. And that comes to EventCatalog, right? Why does EventCatalog exist? Because discoverability, documentation, visualization of event-driven architectures, it sucks. And I think we can do better. And EventCatalog is an open source project that I work on to help people do that. And that's it. So we've had about 15,000 catalogs being created in about 2 years. We've got 750 members on Discord. So if you want to learn more, come to the Discord channel. I'm going to give you a demo now of how it works and dive into all sorts of things. And this dog is
that's quite all right. Nick coming back with the humor. So you're saying your architecture turns into a bit of a dog's breakfast. That was the ball of mud. So
pretty much.
Must be early in the morning in Los Angeles for that.
Yeah.
So your solution, in a way, is not necessarily a product evolution or a service that cloud providers or something can do, but it's actually just the discoverability, and that's documentation. And because if you've done your event storming, the boundaries of your business, what your business needs to do, and you in fact want the freedom for parts of your business to be able to create events, to create as many events as they want, because you don't in effect know what they're going to be used for in the future. But obviously with this, being liberal with your creation, its discoverability becomes the big issue. And so is the EventCatalog all about documentation that you can sort of see and visualize all those kind of events, so people know what they can subscribe to, and this producer trying to connect to a consumer, even though we always think they should be completely separate, the reality it isn't, and this is a way to at least visually connect them if they're not necessarily even technically connected.
Yeah, exactly that. Producers don't know about consumers. Yes, that's fine. We're decoupled. That's fine. We have schema evolution strategies and all this stuff, but people somewhere, somewhere needs to know what is happening.
Yeah.
And that's often lost, especially with the event-driven architecture. So EventCatalog, aims to solve that. It's broker agnostic, technology agnostic. You can implement with any broker, any technology, any service. It helps you document services. It has concepts. It's opinionated about certain concepts like commands, queries, domains, services, which I'll show you in a minute. But it's all driven down by Markdown, and it gives you a static website out the box.
Cool.
So this is the website here. You can see I'll show you exactly in a second how it all works. There's people using it, which is pretty cool. But this is it. We can connect with GitHub, AWS, Azure, Confluent, Kafka, whatever, async API, and document your architectures using components, and you can check this out yourself. So let's dive into demo, shall we?
Bring it on. Yeah.
So the first thing you do, I skip this stage for the live stream, but the first thing you can do is literally just run this command. So this command here is actually it builds a catalog for you out of the box. So you'll get services, you'll get events, you'll get commands, you get the whole lot. So I'm trying to multitask holding a dog, which is cool. Okay, so this is what you get out of the box. So hopefully you can see this, and I'll zoom in a minute. But you just get a folder structure, okay? And this folder structure has commands and domains and events, has flows, which we'll talk about soon, which is a new feature, and pages and services, teams, and users. Okay, so the first thing in really, so when you think about your architecture, especially from a domain-driven design point of view, We've got our domains, we've got a bounded context. Inside of that, we may have services, like it could be your service to, I don't know, account service or user service, creating users of your systems or taking payments. And inside of that, you've got messages coming back and forward. So you've got like commands like, please make a payment, right? Remember, commands can be rejected, or you could have an event that a payment has been made, right? And these events and these messages evolve over time. In fact, in EventCatalog, services and domains and commands, everything evolves over time, right? And EventCatalog helps you document this. So what does it all look like? So first of all, when you get an EventCatalog out, I don't see my dog on the stream there, almost. You run npm run dev, okay? There we got some people there, hello. So you run npm run dev and you get something spawning locally on localhost 3000. So let's go have a look. So when it loads, cool. So this is EventCatalog out the box. This is what you get. So on the left, it's like any other documentation site, hopefully you're kind of used to. So on the left, we have domains and services and messages. So you can see here, I have an orders domain. So if I click on the orders domain, everything you see here is powered by Markdown files. So the orders domain so happens to have services associated to it, okay? So you'll see here that we have tags, we have a version. I'll show you the code in a second. And then we have all this content. Now, down here, we have custom Markdown components. So EventCatalog comes with Markdown components out the box. So one of them is called the node graph, and node graph allows you to visualize your architecture. Okay, again, everything here is just powered by your content, your Markdown files. So I can see that this inventory service receives an event from the order cancelled, order confirmed, order amended, update inventory command. Visualize this stuff, really helpful for people that want to know what is happening in my event-driven architecture space. Down here is also supposed mermaid code blocks. I'll show you that in a second, but you can add any mermaid that you want and it will render out, so that could be good. Down here, we also support flows. So flows are things like an interesting concept. When you build event-driven systems or systems in general, it's kind of like, okay, when a user checks out a banana on our shopping cart, this particular thing, what happens end to end? So we have 4 services talking to each other. We have commands and events being raised all over the place. And I think it's good to document this stuff, or it can be good because, you know, especially working with product owners and maybe non-technical people, actually mapping out how this flow works. And this is exactly how flows work. So we can have actors. So actors are this terminology from event storming where we can say, okay, this user initiates a subscription. So this is a user canceling a subscription in this example. Cancel subscription then goes to the subscription service and kind of continues to go throughout the system. And we also have external services. And everything you can do in flows, you can link your events, your commands, your services. You can link everything out to tell a story. That's the whole idea here. And every page is versioned. You can look at previous versions. So this is a previous version of this domain. Everything can have owners, so I can assign a team. I can assign a team to the domain. I can assign a user to the domain. You can see this domain has 3 services. I can do change logs in EventCatalog. There's so much to go into, but I'll probably take a step. I'll show you some examples. Show you some code.
Yeah. So Dave, when someone's starting, this is not an empty event catalog, but this is the one that's created from example out of the box.
Correct. Yeah. So
if I was doing, let me think, serverless espresso. Serverless espresso is an example. We've talked about many times. Would we then create those individual services like the order service, the order management service, all of those kind of things. And those are individual services that you create in here via the web page or via Markdown. Or is there any way that you can, is there any automation in this to create the events that you already have or do anything like that? Or is this, something you need to sort of manually put together, but you need to do that anyway because it's documentation?
Yeah, all of the above.
Oh dear, I haven't helped, have I?
So Event Catalog out the box is static site generator that you can write Markdown files. Event Catalog, so if you think about the input here, so Event Catalog also has something called generators, which I'm going to show you in a minute, in a bit. But generators take a source, so EventBridge, Azure Event Grid, async API files, open API files, database, whatever it is, and it can generate your documentation from that.
So right? You can actually yes, you can generate documentation from your existing service, for example.
Correct. And nice. the great thing about that is, now imagine your architecture and your enterprise, and you've got like 20 different teams. Every team has open API specs. Every team has async API specs, and you can link and feed them all into your Event Catalog. So show you some code. I see Nick's got a question there. Yeah, I can. I'll probably show an example.
Keen to see how that
could work.
Cool.
So here's an example of that domain, right? So we have orders. So everything is file-based system, right? And this kind of seems standard in some libraries. Next.js have this. So I kind of followed the same suit. So we have domains and orders, and then here we have a front matter file.
Do you mind zooming in a bit, Dave, for the old people like me?
Yeah, is that okay?
One more, why not? For the older people, even older people. There we go.
Cool. So your document. So this is the orders, right? And it's split into two. So we've got front matter and we have the Markdown. So the front matter is like the API to Event Catalog. So we can say, okay, we'll give it an ID. So IDs a way Event Catalog works.
So this is just metadata that specifies that this is the orders, the different kind of versions, different services within that domain. This is the domain. Yeah.
Exactly that.
Okay.
So you can say, here's the version, and equally what's new to Event Catalog version 2 is you can specify versions of your dependencies. So for example, if a team was working on inventory service version 1 or version 3, and we're still using version 2, we can document that, we can show that. And then equally, Event Catalog in the future can actually tell you, hey, you're using an old version, do you want to upgrade? And this is what an upgrade path could look like. And the other people could document that, and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Down here is the Markdown. So the orders domain, we can, we can literally write anything we want.
So this is your documentation text that you would write up as a developer or someone building the orders domain would then, use this. This is manual documentation that you'd write.
Correct. Yeah. And then we have MDX components. So you can see here is like a little, so you just use it. Event Catalog will do this for you. But let's give you a little warning. For example, we've got the node graph component. That's that visualization thing. We have mermaid code blocks, which I've added, which allows you to write any mermaid you want and just inject it into your page. We have flow components. As you can see here, the flow we want to include is the cancel subscription. If I actually go back, we have other flows, I believe. Let's have a look. So we have the payment flow. So if I go down here and just duplicate that, but payment version is the latest one. And then we can just do, I don't know. I've not tried this. This should work. Live demos, which is cool. So you can see here, it's live reload, hot reload. As I'm making changes, we can instantly see them. Hello, here's a component. And down here, we've got the payment flow, right? And we can now see what's happening here. So we can just like build up the building blocks, these Lego bricks of things, and start building this out.
So what does that payment flow then look like? Because that's because you're talking about actors in a different way. That's it's not. I can't see how you would generate that from existing events or that kind of thing.
Yeah, flows are slightly different. Flows are like your end-to-end, right? So what happens when a user cancels the subscription? So the whole idea with actors is, again, this comes from events storming, but who is the person or the people or the team or the something that is triggering this, right? And in this example, we documented that the user is triggering this.
So is that then so what does that actually look like in your actual documentation when you create that?
So flows, so you can see here the payment thing. So at the moment, this is kind of still in beta a bit, still waiting for feedback from the API, but it's all about steps. So here we have the customer places the order. Down here, we this particular step is a
Okay.
message, and it's this particular version.
So you sort of manually create this, or is any, you know?
At the moment, yeah. So everything you see here at the moment is manually created. So you have the option as an EventCatalog user to go in and copy and paste and whatever, and build this stuff up. EventCatalog has an SDK. Let me just show you this, which allows you to programmatically integrate with your catalog. Now, why this is interesting is, well, I can start writing scripts. I can start automating this. I can start on build on the schema registry. When there's a new schema event being added, we can rebuild our catalog. We can go get stuff. We can create events. If you see down here, we can delete events, create events. We can write services. We can version things. This SDK allows you to basically automate elements of EventCatalog. And equally, when you look at integrations, EventCatalog can integrate with anything, okay? Because as long as it's got an API. So the ones that work, that should be coming out soon is Open API and also Backstage. But EventBridge is one of them too, with the schema registry, where we can, get the schemas, download the schemas and the events and the rules, and we can start building up a catalog that hopefully makes sense to people, and they can opt in.
So that's literally then connecting to your live EventBridge accounts, looking at your schemas, your rules, your the sources, destinations, all that kind of things, and we'll just then build it. You'll be able to build a catalog based on that source information.
Yeah, correct, exactly that. So I'll show you an example, and you'll be able to get the general gist. This is the async API generator that I launched last week. So the whole idea here is async API is a specification. It's an industry standard specification that allows you to document your asynchronous APIs. So you can document messages, you can document channels and servers. But what this plugin allows you to do is reach out to all these async API files and build a catalog, right? And this is how it works. So, sorry, my wife probably just come home. Dog's triggered.
I was happy when we were listening to event-driven architecture is no longer.
I know. Yeah, I need to sleep. So this is what it looks like. So there's an idea of generators, and with generators you can generate your event catalog. So show you an example. Let me just let her out 2 seconds. Sorry.
No, fair enough. Well, as you can see, we live. Got to sort out the dogs, the kids, everything. I think a lot of kids I think in America, maybe there's some school thing happening on. I think there are a lot of school things. I'm in London, so the kids are back tomorrow as well. So family life is going crazy for the next few days. Wherever you're, in a lot of places in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So the idea is there are generators. And generators, what they do is they think of it like a pre-build script. So when I run the generate command, it will go into your plugin and it will execute that plugin, and your plugin will execute things into EventCatalog. Okay. And one way I can show you this is actually, let's see if we can do this. Check out async API demo. Here we go. And so this is an example using the async API generator. So what I've done is I've installed the package. You can see this here. And what I've done is every event catalog has a config file. So what I've done is I've created a new generator. And the generator, I can have as many as I want. I could have stuff from EventBridge, Async API, Open API, Azure, Event Grid. I can have it from Solus, Gravity. I can have it from wherever. It doesn't matter. So here I have 2 of them. The reason I have 2 is because I'm also grouping them in domains. This is just how this plugin works. So to walk you through this, I have a folder of async API files. An async API file looks like this. So this is a payment service. This version 102, and it has a description, it has operations, it has messages, it has schemas. We know if it's going to be a message that the service sends or receives. It has all this cool information in it. Okay. And from specifications, what we can do is We can generate code bindings. We can generate all sorts of things. The Async API community have built loads of tooling around this. So I really recommend checking this out. But equally, if you visualize your teams, if you visualize your teams as, around your domains, you could pull in these files, right? You could pull in the file from this team, this team, this team, this team, this team, and start to build up your catalog. I know someone's just mentioned on Twitch here, 20 teams building their own repo. I'll suggest a way to gather all the events into a single repo. This is one way I would think about that. Another thing, if you come to Discord, connect to me on Discord about that too. So one thing I'm thinking about too is a federation of event catalogs, which allows you to connect to multiple repos and make a master catalog, basically. So something to think about. But if you've got ideas or you want that, feel free to reach out.
Cool. Yeah, and thanks for joining us, Viking, as well as via Twitch. Always appreciate the questions.
Cool. So we have async API files. We have the generator, right? So what I'm going to do now is let me just run this command. Sorry, I'm in zoomed in mode here, which is really hard. So I'm going to run npm run generate. This is going to basically run through the configured generators and do the job. So we can see here is we are running through the async API files, and we are creating messages, we're creating schemas, we're creating services, we're creating domains if it doesn't already exist. This plugin actually knows what is already there and what needs to be versioned from an event catalog point of view, and let me do the rest. So what I mean by that, let me show you an example, is if we now run, sorry, I keep killing my title. If we now run dev, this will load up the catalog again on here. And let's delete that. So this is all now generated from Async API. So we have the fraud detection service. So we're clicking here, and now we can see the commands, the events, the services, and the other events. We can go into the inventory service. We can do the same. We start seeing some events. We can actually go into the message, and we actually start seeing the schema. In fact, we can actually download the schema, clicking this button, and the schema gets downloaded for us. We can go back to the service and click download schema, and the async API file gets downloaded for us. So it's basically connecting, getting more and more value out of your async API files. If we go to the visualizer, we can just start looking and searching based on all these messages. And then again, are all powered by, again, async API. I haven't done anything. I haven't written any Markdown files myself. All I've done is just connected my async API to event catalog. I can also use the discover feature, being able to actually quickly filter and search for messages and versions and producers and consumers. I can now look at domains and see services. I can click on there and kind of go through, download schemas, raise change logs, and all sorts of things. So that's pretty cool, but we can even do more than that. We can actually start to version things as things change, right? You've got 20 teams. Each team has an async API file. We can actually start to version and do changes and change logs and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually go over to the orders domain. Right, this has been generated by async API through the thing. I'm just going to add some content here, right? So hello world. So think of flows now, whatever else. You know, is it going to do that? No. Create some fake text. Look at that. But we can basically add whatever we want. We can say, okay, this order domain, it's got this particular thing, this particular product feature, external links. We've got like Confluent links, whatever else, whatever it is you want to do. We can just change this. Now, event catalog persists the markdown and just changes the metadata. What this means is this is always going to be persisted when we do version upgrades. So let's have a look at a version upgrade where we have the order service. So now I am the order service team. Remember, I'm distributed somewhere. It may be a different country or whatever else, just a different project, different service. We've just done a major release of a 2.0. We upgrade to 2.0 here. Maybe we delete some messages, maybe we don't. But let's say for this particular message, the order is created. We're going to add a created at date, right? And we have, I don't know if that's valid or not, so I'm going to put it string for now. So we have type string, format string, type string, get rid of the format. Okay, time when the order was created. So we made some amendments to this. So all we got to do now is save that, probably commit that to our repo, and go to the new terminal, and something somewhere would run generate again. So this would be your CI/CD pipeline, whatever else. Oh, wait, version already exists. The demo god's got me. It's an interesting one, isn't it? So what should
one already exists?
Yeah, let me try delete this quickly and run that again. Okay, cool. I think something's happened there. So what you'll see here is the order service that we had. Where is it? Inventory, order fulfillment, order service. It will know. Hopefully it will know. This is the demos. To version some of the messages in the. I think it's because I deleted them. What would happen is it would automatically version the messages for you based on the message changed here. So as I'm making changes, if I run generate again, it will version the old messages and put the new messages on top. So when you go to EventCatalog, what you'll see is that these have been versioned. And in fact, as it populates too, the Markdown has also persisted. So why is this a cool thing? Because it allows you to automate using generators, using plugins and integrations, but all equally allows you to add more context to your event-driven architecture's documentation. So, there's only so much an EventBridge schema registry is going to give you. There's only so much an async KPI file is going to give you. But what about the extra context? What about the business domain? What about the problems? What about all the extra bits, the flows, and all this stuff that gets lost? And EventCatalog allows you to document that, allows you to document if you want to go full on domains and core domains and subdomains, you can document this here. It's not a problem. So yeah, that's how, I don't know if we've got any questions, but that's how the async KPI or generators work.
So Dave, tell us, when, as Nick's question earlier about integration with Schema Registry and EventBridge, being on, Serverless Office Hours for AWS, how would you see that integration happening? What's that going to look like? I mean, at the moment, you're sort of passing files. But yeah, if you've got an EventBridge connection or Schema Registry, how are you gathering information?
Yeah, sure. So what would happen here is the EventBridge would we would run the generator, and if I go here, so this would be something like EventBridge generator, EventBridge like this. We probably wouldn't have a path to the there is no files. That doesn't make sense. We could probably map it to a domain still. We maybe do some credential stuff. I'm not sure, or it just takes it locally off your machine. But whatever we want, we can specify the region. Actually, that's probably what we want to do. Specify the registry. I have to remember the API syntax itself, but we can specify the registry.
So this would literally connect to the EventBridge API itself.
Correct.
And maybe you could select an event bus and something like that. And so maybe you've got 4 different event buses, for example. This generator connect to a particular event bus, which is to do with your shipping service, for example, and then can pull in all the rules or pull in all the schema from the schema registry, or I suppose anything. Is that where I'm getting to?
Yeah, exactly that. So with EventBridge, and as an example, you can turn on the discovered schema registry. So if that's enabled, we can go and download the schemas for you. Equally, we can download the rules, the rules between the messages and document these for you. So I need to dive into it a bit deeper, but it looks something like a tool that I built before. that allows you to see if the examples still work or they're still up. Something similar-ish to this, maybe. You have a source and you have your event. You can see the schema. This is the schema, and we can also see the rules. So something like that. I know V1. If I go to V1 event catalog, we already had the EventBridge plugin. This is what it actually looked like for you. So you could actually plug it in and start seeing rules and links to your rules directly. We can start seeing all sorts. So I need to dive into it a bit more and work with people in the community, but this is exactly how it works. Is, it runs custom scripts. It goes to the schema registry and the target and the rules, gets the JSON draft and the open API schemas, and maps that all back to event catalog in the right folders, in the right locations. So you as a consumer, would just literally do something like this actually.
Okay, so this is exactly what I was thinking of. This is great. So this, you would basically connect to EventBridge. You're starting from scratch. Connect to EventBridge. Grab all your rules. Grab all your schemas and everything. It's going to then populate the base information, and then you can obviously layer the documentation on top. This is the orders domain that we've created, and you're going to write some text to say, this allows us to manage the orders for these, suppliers, because, you may have another orders domain in another whole part of your business. And that could be, orders for your customers versus orders for suppliers, for example. And so, but once you've got the raw information in from EventBridge, you then layer on that documentation, from your various teams, which they would then write.
Exactly that, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly that. Just connect it to the systems. And some people have done some really cool stuff. If you Google like EventBridge schema registry, like people doing like code builds of events in AWS. So an event catalog. So if your event schema has changed, you can actually trigger a code build. The code build can then run generate, which in return updates your event catalog for you. So you can start to automate a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, so I suppose EventBridge being, an event router, you can generate an event when a schema changes. For example, you trap that event, and then, as you say, run your code build. So I suppose you've been talking a lot of things about, running this locally, but because it's just a static site, you could, you host it on Amplify, you could host it anywhere else, for example, and then have whatever hooks in that could automatically, pull in new information. For example, a new schema gets updated, or there's a new version of a schema that could kick off an event, go to code build, and that's just going to run that. Please connect to EventBridge, grab my new schema, grab all of my schema information. It's then going to know which versions are new. It's going to update your documentation, trigger a build, and your eventcatalog.mycompany.com just gets automatically updated with your events.
Exactly it. Yeah, exactly it. So if you're interested in hosting, you can come here. We actually have community posts. So this is with the EventBridge events one that was done a while ago. We got Azure, CDK. We got hosting on Next. Docker. It actually comes with a Docker image, so you can just host it on Docker if you want. At the moment it's a static site, although that could change in the future. There are some other ideas around making it more. Adding like server-side stuff to it. So an example would be, why couldn't Event Catalog, in theory, press a button and then raise a test event on a broker? Because Event Catalog already knows about the schemas. Event Catalog already knows about the channels or the services. Why can't it give you more out of the box? Why can't it provide you more value? And there's tons of features and tons of ideas out there, but if you've got any in particular or anything you want or is missing, feel free to come on Discord.
If you think you have a central event sort of storage and documentation system, to be able to generate test events from that, or pretend I'm this customer and generate an event on this event bus, off you can go, and you could use that as your some of your testing framework, or just discoverability, even just some debugging kind of thing. Send this event with this payload and see as it flows all the way through, and when it appears somewhere else.
I think so. Yeah, it's exactly that. As how can we get more and more value? Really, there are other things I'm thinking about at the moment, building tools and ecosystems around Event Catalog. So, like, one thing I'm really interested in is like a EDA visualizer, for example, like a studio, so we can actually start to drag domains and services and boundaries and connect this to your event catalog under the hood so we can start building things together in workshops or in whiteboard sessions or with your teams, and you can start to visualize your events differently. Other ideas around domain events, private events, integration events, other ideas around do you have to use Google Chrome? Yeah, I think it's a good question. What's the in one at the moment? It's Arc browser, Brave or Arc, yeah. So yeah, lots of ideas. But as I said, if you come along, come along. You know, if you like the idea, I'm happy to jump on a call with anyone using or interested in the tool. Happy to walk your teams through it. Whatever else. There's integration ideas here. So GitHub, EventBridge, all sorts of things, right? What some people are looking at this at the moment, which is Compass, integrating with Compass, which is cool. But equally, you can do your own custom integrations. If you're interested in custom integrations, what I recommend you do is come over to EventCatalog and come to the template and just clone this. This will get you up and running, save you 3/4 of the time. And we're just getting started, and it's been a really cool journey so far. Loads of people, as I mentioned, we've got like 750 members on Discord now. Loads of company coming out the woodworks and using it and helping them. So I just hope the tool continues to do that, and I hope we can continue to figure out more ways to make it valuable for sure.
Cool. Well, Michael O'Reilly. Hello, Michael. Hey, looking forward to using event cataloging, seeing where it goes. A really exciting roadmap. So then, specifically in terms of roadmap and future things, what kind of feedback are you looking for? What kind of, because obviously there are a million things that this can do. What sort of top of mind that you would help with, to be able to decide what you work on next?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, one thing I'm looking at most is integrations. Loads of people asking me about backstage integration. I think Michael's team's definitely looking at backstage integration. So some of that, integrations I'm focusing on, and stability and things like this. But where people can help out is just use it, test it, contribute. It's all backstage plus. Contribute on Discord. There's like roadmap ideas I have, and I'm looking for upvotes or whatever else. Or if, as I said, if you're interested in jumping on a call and and diving deeper, I think in the future I can kind of visualize. I'd like to do some like workshops around event catalog or whatever else, this kind of stuff. But I don't know. I'm just starting out and just exploring.
See what you can. Yeah, I mean, I think with events, the sky is the limit, because you can even think doing, domain-driven design workshops, that kind of thing. When you actually are defining the domains and the architecture of your and the domain-driven design stuff of your company, do that in event catalog, and you sort of half the way there for actually documenting.
This is exactly that. That's the kind of vision I have. Is if we're doing event storming and event modeling or domain-driven design or whiteboarding or whatever it is, why can't we use a visual tool like an event catalog studio or something to build this idea, and we can start defining schemas and stuff, and then equally press an export button and get a hosted catalog, right? Or get a catalog out the back of it, and vice versa. So there's tons to go after, but I think it's cool. Yeah, it's cool to see it get traction.
Clever Royas, thanks for joining us via YouTube. Can we use serverless.yaml file? That was also another input of infrastructure as code, being CloudFormation, serverless, Terraform, Pulumi. I don't know how I mashed those together, but that would also be an interesting input to be able to generate these. Cool. And then Quellhorst, I'm not quite sure. Did you build something, or Dave wants to build something that renders a 10p resolution of a page and it's easier to save and uses tiny memory? Also, not like Photoshop back. I'm not quite sure what the question is. Maybe you can do it and let us know. And Alpha Codes, welcome back. Yeah, just quickly for the last minute, some EDA pitfalls. You started talking about the complexity all in the beginning. Obviously, event catalog is to hear with the documentation, but just one or two things that you can, as Alpha Code says, it's guessing it's possible to architect everything as event-driven, losing sight of service boundaries. Yeah, but what would be your one or two top tips for event-driven architectures, other than come to EDA Poland and hear all about it?
Yeah, come to GoTo and hear all about it. No, To be honest, yeah, I think one thing's there, as we just mentioned, the orchestration and choreography is like understand the difference, understand when you should use them. One thing I got hooked up on about a while ago is like I think everyone goes through it, but like event-driven, like all things or most things or whatever else. But there are times there it's cool to use synchronous APIs. It's cool to do this stuff, and you need to do this stuff, rather than polling and waiting for things. So you really think about the asynchronous workflow, I think, and just think about when and where it makes sense to use events. But equally, one valuable thing I often find, and I see often other people talk about this a lot, but it's like events are they're quite technical things, and messages are, don't get me wrong, but there's equally business value to all of this. And I think with like domain-driven design and event-driven architectures, they complement each other very, very well. And I think events, when we talk about events and we talk about commands and queries, it all complements each other very well. So yeah, a bit of a ramble, but I'd look at just double check on your synchronous, asynchronous, choreography and orchestration, and just nail them. So then when it comes to that use case, you kind of know what's right, hopefully.
And yeah, something I want to bring up is, we always think the front end's fast because it's synchronous and the back end is slow because it's asynchronous. But I think, particularly with the latency reduction in EventBridge and the way that you can connect EventBridge to AppSync GraphQL subscriptions, all of a sudden you can update your front end in very quick time, but using a whole sort of asynchronous event-driven process. So I think that's a huge, exciting world that's going to open up, where people are going to be able to build things in a asynchronous way, but it's going to be as fast as async. So yeah, I think that, it's going to be super interesting. Dave, any last things we haven't covered, or anything else you want to chat about for a minute?
Wow.
How's the dogs?
No, I think we covered it all. As I said, if you want to come along for the journey, join the community. I don't know. There's loads of ideas, loads of options. If it's not working for you, let me know.
Cool. Yeah. No, I mean, from what it's worth, I've looked through the site. The site has got plenty of documentation, obviously because it's a documentation tool. But yeah, Dave's done a great job with that. Discord channel for community as well. So yeah, plenty of possibilities to get involved. Well, thanks, Dave. Before we say proper goodbye, next day we're all talking about API development using Smart Bear Swagger Hub. So this is a thing for if you're using API Gateway with Amazon. Documenting APIs is obviously super important, as Dave has been speaking about documenting your events today. So Sean and Matt are going to be talking with us same time, same place next week. Then we've mentioned it many times, EDA Day, 19th of September. We'd love to see you there. And don't forget, get your tickets for reInvent. If you can manage that, that'd be great to see you and connect and talk about all events over there. But Dave, thanks for spending time with us again on Serverless Office Hours. There's Chris, both of our ex's boss. So Chris, thanks for joining us at Office Hours. Rock on, absolutely. Yeah, Dave, thanks so much for joining us, and good luck with EventCatalog. If anyone wants to go, it's eventcatalog.dev, and yeah, good luck.
Thanks a lot. Cheers, Julian. Thanks for